Hare Krishna, good morning, devotees. Sorry, I'm running a few minutes late. Let's start with Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopi Ganavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Ganavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Lalita Vishaka, Lalita Vishaka Shri Radhe, Jaya Lalita Vishaka, Lalita Vishaka Shri Radhe, Jaya Nitai Guru Sundar, Nitai Guru Sundar Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Guru Sundar, Nitai Guru Sundar Gaura Hari, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astatara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sritatmane Shigora Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pastyatya Satarine. Okay, so we're reading, continuing from Canto 5, but we're on to chapter 18 now. And this morning, we are reading texts 5 and 6. So 5:18, 5 and 6. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devam saraswatim vyasam tatodayam mujirayat nastaprayasho bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhakti bhavati naishtaki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. For chapter 18 and text 5, the verse is as follows. Vishvodbhavastana nirodha karmate yakarturangirtam api apavritaha yuktam na chitram Kavikarya karane sarvatmani vyatirikta cha vastuttaha. And the translation of that verse is, O Lord, although you are completely detached from the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this material world and are not directly affected by these activities, they are all attributed to you. We do not wonder at this, for your inconceivable energies perfectly qualify you to be the cause of all causes. You are the active principle in everything, although you are separate from everything. Thus, we can realize that everything is happening because of your inconceivable energy. There's no purport, so we're going on to text 6. Vedan Yuganta Tamasa Tiraskritan Rasa Taladyo Nituranga Vigraha Pratyada Devai Kavaya Biyachate Tasme Namaste Vitate Hitayiti. The synonyms, we'll go through that for here, the transliteration. Vedan, the four Vedas, Yuga Ante, at the end of the millennium. Tamasa, by the demon of ignorance personified. Tiraskritan, stolen away. Rasatalat, from the lowest planetary systems, Rasatala. Ya, who, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Neturanga Vigraha, assuming the form of half horse, half man. Pratyadade, returned. By, indeed, Kavaye, to the supreme poet Lord Brahma. Abhiyachate, when he asked for them. Tasme, unto him, the form of Hayagriva. Namaha, my respectful obeisances. Te, to you. Abhitata iti ihitaya, whose resolution never fails. Iti, thus. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. At the end of the millennium, ignorance personified assumed the form of a demon, stole all the Vedas, and took them down to the planet of Prasatala. The Supreme Lord, however, in his form of Hayagriva, retrieved the Vedas and returned them to Lord Brahma when he begged for them. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, whose determination never fails. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although Vedic knowledge is imperishable, within this material world, it is sometimes manifest and sometimes not. When the people of this material world become too absorbed in ignorance, the Vedic knowledge disappears. Lord Hayagriva, or Lord Matsya, however, always protects the Vedas, or always protects the Vedic knowledge. And in due course of time, it is again distributed through the medium of Lord Brahma. Brahma is the trustworthy representative of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, when he again asked for the treasure of the Vedic knowledge, the Lord fulfilled his desire. Translation again. At the end of the millennium, ignorance personified assumed the form of a demon, stole all the Vedas, and took them down to the planet of Rasatala. The Supreme Lord, however, in his form of Hayagriva, retrieved the Vedas and returned them to Lord Brahma when he begged for them. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, whose determination never fails. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmei Shri Guruve Namaha Panchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyev Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadharha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So good morning, devotees. Very happy to see everyone this morning and grateful to be in your association. So we're reading again what's going on here after the Ganges has descended, and now we are here where we are talking about the creative impetus, and there's some nice themes to kind of hone in on. First of all, we hear how in text 5 that Krishna is the cause of all causes. And we know that famous verse, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Prabhupada explains that this is the definition of Krishna given by Lord Brahma, of course, in Brahma Samhita. And yeah, we hear how when we hear about Krishna, it's knowledge of the absolute. Prabhupada explains to us there are usually two things, the absolute and the relative. Here we understand this is the relative world. We cannot understand one thing without the other. If we say there's a son, there must be a father. There's a husband, there's a wife. Or well, depends whatever happens in this millennium. There's a servant, there's a master. There's light, there's darkness. So that's the relative world, and everything is relative. But Prabhupada shares, and this is from a lecture he gave actually in Durban, in Bhagavad Gita 7.1, he says, but there's another world which is called the absolute world. And there the master and the servant, there's no distinction. Although one is master and the other is servant, the position is the same. This is what he's explaining. So he says, we get a hint about the absolute world and absolute knowledge, but how can that knowledge be attained? And that's what's spoken by Krishna. And so understanding that Krishna is absolute is actually this definition given by Lord Brahma, which is very nice, very sweet. We can also see how, through disciplic succession, the parampara, the absolute knowledge is achieved when we hear from the absolute. And, the person needs to be qualified. We are understanding that Krishna is the original person. He is absolute, and he is the cause of all causes, and at the same time, he is separated from his external energies. But then we're also hearing then in the next verse how, as Krishna is giving such knowledge, representatives are giving such knowledge, but from time to time the knowledge is manifest and unmanifest. And we hear how this is due to ignorance. The knowledge disappears when there's too much ignorance. And of course, this reminds us of chapter 4 in Bhagavad Gita, and there's like just so much both essence and expansion in this entire chapter when we hear about why the Lord descends, when he descends, what happens, why is the Vedic knowledge lost? And so I thought we could revisit that a little bit. So we hear then in chapter 4, and I'll just go through as a refresher, that, and at least for myself too, that Krishna is saying how he's instructed the supreme science, to Vivasvan, and how it's coming down in disciplic succession. And the saintly kings understood it that way, but in course of time this was broken, and so the science appears to be lost. So of course, Arjuna is very smart when Krishna explains all this. He says, well, if Vivasvan is senior by birth to you, then how am I to understand that you are the beginning? That in the beginning you instructed the science to him. And then the very famous verse spoken by Krishna where he says, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. And so Krishna goes a little bit more into details. He's unborn. His transcendental body never deteriorates. He's the Lord of all living entities. And he appears in every millennium in his original transcendental form. And here, in relationship to this verse, whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. And why does Krishna come? As we all know, to deliver the pious and highlight the miscreants and reestablish the principles of religion. And then we hear also that, of course, one who then starts to understand this, all of us in our endeavors, as we seek to understand this upon leaving the body, we have this opportunity to never take birth again in this material world because of that. And we are endeavoring to be fully absorbed in Krishna, to be free from attachment, free from fear, free from anger, and just taking full refuge in Krishna. And in this way, we become purified by knowledge of Krishna. And our transcendental love is developed for Krishna. And in this way, we attempt to surrender. And Krishna again, very reassuringly tells Arjuna, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. everyone follows my path in all respects. And so let's look at all these respects that people follow paths. There's those of us that follow, well, some folks, might desire success in productive activities. Some may worship the demigods. And the results are there. Based on the three modes, there's work, there's the divisions of society. But we know that Krishna is the creator of that system. And again, we reminded how he is the non-doer, although behind that and there is the non-doer and unchangeable. And Krishna tells us, there is no work that affects me. And one who understands this truth then does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. And we are given direction. All the previous liberated souls in ancient times, he says, they understood this, and the request is made from Krishna to Arjuna, therefore, you should perform your duty and follow in their footsteps. But, there is bewilderment from time to time too. What is action? What is inaction? What are the intricacies of that? What is proper? What is forbidden? As we endeavor in this process, we try to extricate ourselves from that and attempt to attain the transcendental position, to be above that. But we understand that there are different ways that, people will endeavor. There's a desire for sense gratification. And in our attempts as practitioners in bhakti, we are endeavoring to be in full knowledge. We want to be devoid of our desire for sense gratification. Desire is there, but we want to rechannel that away from sense gratification and towards loving service. And when we are in a position where we can, abandon all attachment, be ever satisfied, we can try to attempt to look at the mind, the intelligence, see how to engage that in Krishna's service and how to regulate that. And then comes this wonderful, liberating experience of being free from the sense of proprietorship and being in the mode of just there for necessities of life. And Krishna is giving so many amazing instructions to Arjuna in this particular chapter. And he goes on to say that, he who is satisfied with gain, which comes of his own accord, who is free from duality, does not envy, steady in both success and failure, is never entangled. So some rich instructions. But it's difficult, with the modes are there, the process and the application of the endeavor is up and down, but each time we make incremental adjustments to become more and more steady. And as much as there may be ups and downs, we want to have, more ups and the dips getting shallower and the trajectory further up. But we know that if a person is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then we can attain Krishna. And we're seeing here how the various processes are there for different devotees, different persons who want a relationship with the Supreme Lord. We see how through the, some sacrifice the hearing process. That's like brahmacharis might, and regulated householders sacrifice objects of the senses. And then at the end of the day, though, what we're really pursuing is self-realization. And, there's different methods. Some accept strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, others by performing severe austerities, others by eightfold mysticism or studying the Vedas. But we will hear as we read these verses and chapters in Bhagavad Gita, and especially this chapter 4, how all of our endeavors is towards attaining transcendental knowledge. And then from that knowledge, we are situated in our constitutional position and then can act in a way that is most beneficial to our highest self-interest. And so, yeah, Krishna is saying, there's so many different types of sacrifices that are approved by the Vedas. And we can know them and we can become liberated. But sacrifice, and this is the important thing that Krishna is reminding us, sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. So all sacrifices of work ought to culminate in transcendental knowledge. So then the question arises, well, then how to get this transcendental knowledge, if that is it? And so we are also hearing that other famous instruction, just learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. And how? Inquire from him submissively. What else? Render service unto him. And what happens then? Those self-realized souls, they impart knowledge unto us because, why? Because they have seen the truth. And so in this way, we are assured that we will never fall again into illusion, because that knowledge is coming from the Supreme through this disciplic succession, like Brahma is an authorized representative. So this knowledge is coming through this disciplic succession. And so that potency of that message is there, and the transformation and the activation principle is there within us. So one might think, well, oh, I'm so sinful, this and that. But again, here, Krishna is saying to Arjuna, even if you're considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you're situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. And as we approach the spiritual master, there's so much growth and purification. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, or Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge. This knowledge is so essential. Burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. And there's nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. So that is our endeavor, this endeavor for transcendental knowledge as the gateway to opening up our hearts to love Krishna, to love each other in a way that is absolutely based on our true identity as spirit souls. And so we're reassured one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. And so as we're dedicated to transcendental knowledge, we're able to subdue our senses